And we're going to hear a 10-minute presentation now from Kristin Shi-Kupfer from MERICS, the Mercator Institute on China Studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maite. And if it's possible to get my PPT on screen, that would be super, so I can share this with you. Let's see if that's possible. Should be. Is it? Maybe I just start first to share a little bit about, so here we go, super. So first of all, it's a great privilege to be here for an academic researcher to not only feel the energy here in the room and at the whole festival, also it's a privilege to be talking not only among Europeans about China, but to really talk about China with Chinese. We should do more of this, right? This is really important, very important insights by Kaiser Kuo and Zhang Bowen already. So I'm glad to be here and share a little bit of our perspective. I mean from MERICS. We are a privately funded research institute based in Berlin, 30 plus people looking at all aspects of contemporary China and the impact this has for Europe. And we have been commissioned by the European Commission actually to do a study and assessment on China's strengths and also China's weaknesses in terms of digital transformation and also the potential impacts this might have on Europe, but actually is already having on Europe. And you might, as you see the title, maybe some of you might have been surprised, saying, wait a minute, challenges, really? You put such a strong emphasis on challenges. Isn't it also really about opportunities? And I don't want to make it you show of hands, but I can assume maybe it's 50-50. People would say, some of you would say it's more about opportunities. Some of you would say, no, it's more about challenges. Maybe meditate about your feeling when you see the title for a couple of seconds. And actually by challenge, I want to explain before I go ahead to really explore this, actually the political and the economic background of this whole China story, also of stories we've heard today and I believe yesterday, really impressive, innovative companies. I want to share a little bit of that background, but first of all, I want to start off by saying challenge for me is a good word. Because it really, I believe it can help us to do better here in Europe in terms of getting really more ready and more prepared to really tackle these new challenges, technologies for our politicians, companies, also as a society to be much more open and curious about what's going on globally. But I also believe we can do better in terms of incentivizing, inspiring China, especially the Chinese government, also to hopefully together with us here in Europe to ensure we provide a fair, a transparent, and ethical framework for these technologies to really put them to use for the good of societies or for the good of human beings. So, as I said, in the next 10 minutes, I would like you to invite you to explore with me together a little bit of the background of also China's arguably impressive digital rise lately. So first of all, I would like to share a map with you, and the effect should be, wow, this is pretty impressive, right? That's kind of fits into the picture which we've already been hearing also from Kaiser and from Zhang Bowen. This is what we did, and this is only a selection of investments done in e-commerce and logistics, also in related to payment systems in the last 3 years in Europe. And you see familiar names. It's about Alibaba, and also it's also JD. Well, I'm glad it's also on here. JD. And of course, this is impressive. This is to be welcomed. It's great that Chinese companies are now at a level to invest and to kind of compete here in Europe, eventually bring also better products and solutions for European customers. First of all, for Chinese customers, as Zhang Bowen said, but also for us here in Europe. It has been impressive, right? This checkout thing here, which he displayed. It would be cool to have it here too. But I think there are three aspects we really have to be aware of. And again, not in the sense of also what Kaiser said, like, whoa, we should be afraid, we should reject everything that comes from China, from Chinese companies, but really in the sense of to be aware of the challenges. First point, it's a little bit about an uneven competition because also privately owned companies like Alibaba or Huawei much more because it's much closer to the party state, they get subsidies in China. They get tax deductions, they get massively state funds, they get guided into going abroad and really helped by the Chinese party state partly to pursue these kinds of commercial ventures. And it's also uneven in the sense of that foreign companies don't have similar access to the Chinese markets, right? Imagine a telecommunication company, a European one like Nokia, also wanting to build up 5G in China. That's not possible. So we have to be aware and also constantly ask that question to the Chinese policymakers. Reciprocity. Welcome to come to Europe, but make it reciprocal. Second aspect here, data insecurity is clearly a challenge because we do have different data regimes in China and in Europe. So we have the GDPR. I believe it's a great thing. It should be much more self-confidently also exported abroad, again, also inspiring privacy rights for Chinese users, for American users. We have to be aware of these, if Chinese companies acting on European grounds, they should be, of course, then strictly also be made that they should comply with the GDPR, right? Otherwise, we kind of risk that also data will transfer back to China, would be compromised, would be leaked. And again, we don't have yet the legal framework in China to really enforce consumer rights. Third thing, systemic rivalry. This relates to an investment. I want to give an example here by Alibaba in Belgium 2019. It was not only an investment, it was also a contract with the Belgian government for something which is called the EWTP. It's a new framework for e-commerce, which has been suggested by Alibaba, by Jack Ma, and where he's now trying to find single European governments to sign up to this. And this is clearly, it's a new trade system. Again, this is to be welcomed, cool Chinese initiative, but is going against a European effort to create a digital single market, again, on whole other terms in sense of transparency, in terms of also legal kind of opportunities for customers to pursue their rights. So again, welcome Chinese activities here in Europe, but I think we have to be aware, we have to address these questions in our legislation here and also vis-a-vis the Chinese government when it comes to, and also companies when it comes to their activities here in Europe. Second aspect I would like to share with you in terms of China's digital rise is something, again, very admirable. I think the Chinese government is one of the few governments which thinks very strategically about digitization. Not in the sense of really having a comprehensive strategy, but really having building blocks on various levels, on a national legislation level, also on an expert level, white papers, also very specific plans how to go about AI, quantum computing, the whole Made in China 2025 debates, clear targets for how they want to be and where they want to be in the next 10 to 15 years. This is very impressive, clearly something we can learn something from. Again, we have to realize it's not a pure economic effort. It's first of all, it is about economic growth, also for the Chinese government first and foremost. It's about creating a digital economy. It's about also making their traditional industry more efficient, to upgrade them, to do smart manufacturing, not only manufacturing. But it's also about creating tools, especially with AI, for a more effective governance. Again, also on the one hand side, very positively, we may have heard about the social scoring, the social credit system, making Chinese citizens, Chinese companies, also foreign companies and citizens abide more by the law, for example, concerning economic, environmental standards, for example, also concerning traffic behavior. Yeah, you should drive a car with the right speed. But it also entails something which, at least we in Europe, from our point of view, find more troubling. it's also kind of wants to incentivize what you say or what you not say in terms of criticism towards the government, for example. What kind of people you are befriended with, people who are more patriotic and voice that their support for the Chinese government or not. So, and I mean, we've seen that all, you've read the news, what can really happen with effective governance in Xinjiang, using AI, using big data to mass surveillance against the Uyghur people, to detect their every move and also to bring them into, so to say, detention centers. So we have seen also the very worst of how these technologies can be employed under an authoritarian regimes. We should be aware of it. It's not here yet in Europe, but we should be aware that this entails, and now I'm talking about global influence, something which China also tries. They've been trying this already with African governments to kind of export their technology to potentially also support a misuse of it. Also, displaying their global influence in terms of standard setting. Chinese are very fast with that in terms of standards for 5G, but also for Internet of Things, also for quantum. And if you kind of set the standards for a technology, it of course gives you then access to market share because your companies would have these standards at a very early stage. And I think this is, again, something we have to be aware of. I would like to also, thirdly, point out that this is not a linear story. It's neither, wow, China will overrule us in the next 5 to 10 years. And it's also not, we should not, and we have stopped that, fortunately, look down on China saying they're not going to innovate, it's leading nowhere, this will go away. I think we have to be aware about the strengths and the weaknesses of these Chinese endeavor. And for the sake of time, I won't go into the details. I just wanted to finish up again by summarizing my message. Challenge in the sense of let's be aware of what is also kind of behind it in terms of uneven competition, data insecurity, and a systemic rivalry, different concepts and standards. Let's also be aware this is not only about the economy, there's a broader political and also potentially military dimension to this whole China's digital ambition. Let's be aware of their strengths, where we can learn from. Let's also be aware of the potential inefficiencies which still exist in their quest to become the global leadership. But again, I wanted to be finished by saying, let's use this challenge to do better for Europe and also for China. Thank you very much.